I was just fixing her bed, tightening bolts and trying not to stare. But then she looked at me with those tired, beautiful eyes and asked if I'd lie down beside her. I knew I should have said no. But my heart, it answered before I could. I wasn't expecting my Saturday evening to be anything special. Just a quiet night, probably instant noodles, and an unhealthy amount of scrolling. But then my phone buzzed. A message from her. She lived a few houses down. We weren't strangers, but we weren't close either. She was the kind of woman you noticed even when you tried not to. Graceful, composed, like she had lived enough life to know exactly who she was, and enough heartbreak to doubt it sometimes. Her text was short. Hey, sorry to bother you. My bed frame feels like it's falling apart. Could you take a look? I told her I'd be right over before my brain could catch up with my mouth. Or my heart. When I stepped into her bedroom, the first thing I noticed wasn't the broken bed. It was her. Loose hair brushing her shoulders. A soft sweater sliding off one side like it was tired too. Light makeup smudged from the day. She had an effortless beauty, the kind that grows stronger the longer you look. Thank you for saving me, she joked, leading me inside, a hand instinctively touching my arm to guide me. Just that brief contact sent more electricity through me than I'd like to admit. Her bedroom felt warm. Not hot, but warm, like it held secrets. A vanilla-scented candle flickered near the window, casting soft shadows against pale blue walls. A book and reading glasses sat on the nightstand. A half-finished mug of herbal tea left a faint, calming scent in the air. Everything about her space felt lived in, real, comforting. The bed started squeaking and wobbling last night, she said, tapping the wooden frame with her foot. I think it's finally giving up on me, like everything else in this house. She tried to laugh it off, but her eyes betrayed something tender, something tired. I knelt beside the bed and got to work, tightening screws, checking joints, pretending I wasn't hyper-aware of her sitting near me. The mattress dipped slightly as she sat, knees almost touching my shoulder. Every little movement sent the scent of her perfume drifting through the air, soft, elegant, unforgettable. We talked while I worked. Easy conversation. Natural. She mentioned her divorce casually, like someone mentioning the weather, but I caught the tiny pause, the quick shift of her gaze away from mine, as if she didn't want sympathy, just understanding. And I understood more than she knew. Losing people hurts. Trying to rebuild alone hurts even more. When I finished, I sat back on my heels. Should be steady now, I said. Oh, thank God, she breathed out, hand over her heart like I had done more than fix furniture. She smiled, really smiled, and for a moment the room felt brighter. You earned tea, she declared, already heading to the kitchen. And maybe dessert, if I can find something that hasn't expired. Her voice carried down the hallway, light and teasing, and I followed, realizing that somewhere between the loose screws and vanilla candles, I'd stepped into something I wasn't prepared for, something that felt dangerously close to fate. We carried our drinks back to her room. She insisted we test the bed after I fixed it, but tea came first. She sat cross-legged near the pillows, and I took a seat a respectful distance away, at the corner of the mattress. Even then, the bed dipped just enough to remind me how close we really were. She wrapped her hands around her mug like she was warming more than just her fingers. You're a lifesaver, she sighed. I swear, everything's breaking lately. I smiled. Well, beds aren't built to last forever. That makes two of us, she muttered, almost too quietly to be a joke. She gave a soft laugh, but her gaze stayed lowered to the tea swirling in her cup. I didn't push. Sometimes silence says everything. Eventually, she spoke again. Slower, like each word carried weight. My nights have been weird, hard to sleep, too much on my mind. There was no dramatic music, no sudden rain outside, just two people in a warm room, trying to be honest. I asked if she wanted to talk about it. She did. She shared small pieces at first. A demanding job, bills piling up, a house that needed more attention than she had energy for. Then the deeper layer slipped through, the layer she hadn't meant to reveal. When you've spent years sharing a bed, she whispered. It feels colder when there's no one on the other side. Her eyes glistened, but she blinked the softness back before it could fall. Vulnerability looked beautiful on her, not because she was hurting, but because she trusted me enough to show it. I shifted slightly, sensing her needing company more than conversation. My knee brushed hers, just a tiny touch, yet she didn't pull away, not even a flinch. "What about you?" she asked. "You seem too young to have sleepless nights." Young. There it was, the invisible line between us. But I didn't hide behind my age. "I worry about not knowing who I'm supposed to become," I admitted. "Some days I feel like I'm pretending to be an adult and hoping no one notices." She looked at me then, really looked, her expression softening with unexpected understanding. "You're more grown than you think," she said gently. Her fingers reached out, just for a moment, adjusting the sleeve I'd rolled too loosely. It was such a simple gesture, but her touch lingered warm, careful, almost afraid of its own desire. The air between us tightened, not tense, just full, like the pause before a song's most beautiful note. "Thank you for being here," she said, voice quiet and sincere. "As long as you need me," I replied, and meant it more than I should. She set her mug aside and leaned back onto her hands. "Well," she smiled faintly, "moment of truth. Let's see if this bed is ready to trust someone again." Her words were playful, but her eyes held something deeper, something that made my heart forget its rhythm, and wonder if fixing that bed was only the beginning. She nudged the mattress with her knee first, like she was testing a playful secret. The wood beneath us didn't squeak anymore, a silent confirmation that I'd done my job well. "Nice," she said, grinning as she sat down. "It already feels sturdier." I laughed quietly. "Well, I try." She took a slow breath, like she was deciding something in her head before letting the rest of the night unfold. Then she tapped the space beside her, gentle, teasing, but undeniably intentional. "Come on," she coaxed. "We should make sure it holds two people. For, safety reasons." Her tone was light, but her eyes were searching mine for refusal, or maybe permission. I swallowed my nerves and sat down. Not too close, not too far. The mattress dipped again, just enough for her shoulder to brush mine, just enough for my pulse to pick up. She noticed. Of course she noticed. She gave a tiny smirk like she found my nervousness charming, which only made it worse. "Relax," she whispered, nudging me with her elbow. "I don't bite." A beat passed. "Unless someone deserves it." Heat crept up my neck, and she saw it. Her laughter was soft, low, the kind that settles right into your chest. She leaned back onto her elbows, legs stretched out, toes brushing mine like it was nothing. But the stillness that followed said it was definitely something. "Feels solid," she said. Her voice had changed, softer, slower. "Not testing the bed anymore, testing us." I shifted to lie back too, awkward at first, arms stiff at my sides. She turned her head toward me, her hair falling against my shoulder, her perfume brushing the air between us. "You're nervous," she said, but it wasn't a tease this time. She sounded almost flattered. "I've just never done a bed test quite like this," I managed. She smiled, small, almost relieved that she wasn't the only one feeling the weight of the moment. Her fingers played absently with the seam of the blanket beside her, a silent fidget, revealing her own uncertainty. The distance between our hands was small enough that if either of us breathed a little deeper, our skin might meet. "So," she whispered, eyes flicking to my lips for a fraction of a second before returning to mine. "Are we comfortable?" Every possible answer caught in my chest, tangled in the quiet of her room. I didn't trust my voice. I just nodded. She let out a gentle breath, the kind people release when they stop pretending they don't feel something. "I shouldn't be this comfortable with you," she murmured. And that honesty, raw and exposed, pulled us even closer. I turned my head toward her, noses almost brushing. The mattress creaked the tiniest bit, like it too was holding its breath. If time had a heart, it would have skipped then. Inside me, everything was loud: want, restraint, confusion, hope. But outside, the room remained softly still. Two people lying side by side, pretending a bed test was still just a bed test, when it already felt like the beginning of something neither of us could name, but both of us wanted to. She shifted beside me, turning onto her side slowly, like she was afraid the wrong move would break the spell instead of strengthening it. The mattress dipped again, nudging me closer, and suddenly the inches between us felt like a thin thread stretched too tight. Her eyes found mine, not rushed, not shy, just searching, as if she was trying to read every thought I was afraid to say out loud. "You're very easy to be around," she whispered. It wasn't flirty. It wasn't playful. It was the kind of truth that makes your chest feel too small for your heart. I turned slightly to face her, supporting my head with my arm. The room felt narrower now, the air warmer. Her breath brushed my cheek as she exhaled, and I swear the world paused to watch us. She reached up gently, her fingertips tracing a line from my wrist to my forearm. Barely a touch, but enough to make me forget what breathing felt like. Her hand lingered there, like she wanted to memorize my skin, like she was proving to herself I was real. "This is dangerous," she murmured, voice low and unsteady. "What part?" I asked, though I already knew. Her lips curled into the faintest smile. "All of it." The tension in her eyes wasn't doubt in me. It was fear of what wanting me might cost her. She leaned in, just a little, close enough for our noses to brush, for her perfume to feel like warmth wrapping around me, close enough that if either of us made one more brave decision, we'd fall into whatever this was becoming. She was the first to break the pretending. Her forehead rested against mine, soft and careful. I felt her swallow, a trembling breath, like she was fighting herself and losing. "I don't know if I should want this," I confessed, words barely audible. Her eyes closed. A sigh slipped out of her, relief, longing, and fear tangled together. "That's the problem," she whispered. "We both do." For a heartbeat, just one, we leaned in closer, almost touching, almost knowing, almost ruining whatever excuses we still had left. Then it snapped. She turned away abruptly, sitting up with a shaky laugh that tried to hide the panic in her hands. "I'm sorry," she said, rubbing her forehead as if she could erase the moment. "I shouldn't have. I didn't mean to make things weird." I sat up too, careful not to crowd her. "You didn't," I said softly. But she was already building walls again, invisible but strong. Her shoulders curled inward. Her voice returned to polite distance. She was slipping back into a version of herself that didn't believe she deserved something tender. "It's just been a long time since I felt—" She stopped there, searching for a safer word and failing. "Wanted." She meant wanted. I could have reached for her hand. I could have told her she wasn't alone in this confusion. I could have admitted that I wanted to lean in too. But instead, I offered silence. Not the empty kind, but the kind that says, "I'm here, even if you need a moment to breathe." She stood from the bed, smoothing her sweater like she needed something to do with her hands. The room, once warm and inviting, now felt too close, too full of everything we almost did. Without a word, she walked toward the hallway, and I quietly followed. The house was dim, the only light coming from the kitchen window. When she opened the back door, the cool night air spilled in like a breath we both needed. She stepped outside first, letting the breeze carry away the tension that clung to her. I joined her beneath the porch light's soft glow. The yard was still, just crickets, the faint rustle of leaves, and the distant hum of a neighborhood that had long since gone to sleep. She wrapped her arms around herself, a subtle shield I couldn't help wanting to reach through. "I'm sorry," she said, voice small but sincere. "I shouldn't have let things get that close." I leaned against the railing beside her, keeping a respectful distance but close enough that she'd know I wasn't running from the moment. "You don't have to apologize for feeling something," I said gently. She looked up at the stars as if they were easier to face than me. "It's not the feeling that scares me," she admitted. "It's what it could ruin." There it was, the fear she'd been carrying like a secret weight. "I'm older," she continued, letting the truth spill out before she could second-guess it. "I've already lived so much life and made so many mistakes. I don't want to be someone's bad decision. Her vulnerability wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, honest, and the more she spoke, the more I realized how long she'd kept these pieces of herself locked away. Without thinking, I stepped closer. Not touching, just close enough that she'd feel my certainty. "You're not a mistake," I said. "Not to me." She turned then, surprise flickering in her eyes. That soft shock, the disbelief that someone might choose her, hurt more than her earlier apology. She stared at me like she was trying to find the catch, the flaw, the part where I would take back what I'd just said. But I didn't. "Do you know what scares me?" I continued. "That you think you don't deserve to be wanted. Or that you think I'm only here because I don't know any better." Her breath caught. Her eyes softened. And for the first time tonight, she didn't look away. She reached out, hesitant, and brushed a thumb across my cheek. A feather-light touch, but it made every muscle in me go still. "I forgot what it felt like," she whispered. "To be looked at like that. Like someone actually sees me." I covered her hand with mine, holding it gently against my skin. Not pulling, not rushing. Just letting her feel how steady I was. "I see you," I said. "Every part." Her eyes glimmered, not from sadness, but from the first spark of hope she'd allowed herself in far too long. And as the night breeze curled around us, cooling our skin and calming our hearts, she finally leaned toward me. Not with fear, but with belief. Not in the future. Not in labels or perfect timing. Just in us, in this moment we were brave enough to share. We stayed outside for a little while longer, just breathing, just existing beside each other without trying to define what this was. She seemed steadier now, the tension in her shoulders slowly easing as the night air cooled everything that had overheated inside. When she finally turned back toward the house, she paused at the doorway and looked at me as if asking, "Are you coming in? Are you sure?" I answered with a simple nod, but somehow, that tiny gesture felt like the bravest yes I'd ever given. Inside, the lights were lower, softer. The house felt different now. Not smaller like before, but safer. She motioned for us to sit on the couch, and I followed, letting the cushions sink beneath us. There was space between us, but only the kind that begs to be crossed. She tucked a leg beneath herself and angled toward me, her voice hesitant but searching. "Can I ask you something?" I nodded. "What do you want from me?" "From this." No accusation, no sarcasm, just fear wrapped in honesty. I took a breath, steadying the words that wanted to rush out too fast. "I want to show you what it's like to feel chosen," I said. "Not by accident. Not because you were the easy option. Because you're the one someone looks for, even when they don't know what they're looking for yet." Her lips parted slightly, like she'd forgotten how to breathe for a second. I could see the doubt starting to melt, caution giving way to something tender. She reached out, gently placing her hand on mine. Her fingers curled with a softness that wasn't uncertainty anymore. It was hope. "You're young," she whispered, though it sounded less like a warning now and more like a fear she'd been told to believe. "You'll change. Your world will change. And I don't want to be something you outgrow." I squeezed her hand lightly. "Or maybe," I said, "you could be someone I grow toward." She blinked. Once, slow, and I watched the words land in a place inside her that hadn't been touched in a long time. A soft song played from another room. Something calm, thoughtful. The kind of music that fills silence without breaking it. She shifted closer. Not dramatically, just inch by inch, until our thighs touched. I felt her warmth seep through fabric and fear alike. She laid her head on my shoulder, as if testing whether I'd flinch or freeze or pull away. I didn't. My arm wrapped around her instinctively. Not possessive, not rushed. Just steady, present. She exhaled, deeply, her breath warm against my chest. "I wasn't planning on this," she murmured. "I wasn't either," I confessed. "But I'm glad it's happening." Her fingers traced slow, absent-minded circles against my knee, a silent admission of trust. For the first time tonight, there was no tension, no second-guessing, no apology, just two people choosing something neither expected, but both were done pretending they didn't want. Would you like me to continue with Keynote 7 Expanded, the emotional resolution and first kiss? You said, expand Keynote 7, 500 words. ChatGPT said, absolutely. Here is Keynote 7 expanded to 500 words, giving the story a tender, emotionally secure resolution while keeping everything YouTube safe. White medium star Keynote 7, the first kiss, expanded 500 words, narration, first person, male POV. We stayed like that for a while, her head resting against my shoulder, my arm around her, as though stillness itself could be a language. And maybe it was. Eventually, she lifted her head, eyes searching mine in the dim light. There was no tension now, but there was anticipation, delicate yet strong. Like the entire night had been leading us to this moment where neither of us had to hide anymore. I'm scared, she admitted softly. Me too, I said. But not of you. She let out a breath, the kind you release when you finally choose courage over doubt. Come with me, she whispered. We stood, our hands brushing before lacing together naturally, and she led me back toward the bedroom. Not with urgency, but with intention. The bed I'd fixed earlier felt like a quiet witness to our unfolding story. She sat first, smoothing the blanket out beneath her palms. I joined her slowly, sitting close enough that our knees touched, our shoulders aligned. She turned toward me with a vulnerability that felt sacred. Her fingers lifted to my jaw, tracing the line of it softly, like she was learning the shape of someone she never expected to want. If this is wrong, she murmured, then why does every part of me feel like it's finally right? I didn't answer with words. I leaned forward, careful, giving her every chance to stop me, and pressed my forehead against hers. Our breaths mingled, shallow and warm. Her hand slid down to rest over my heart. Look at you, she whispered, voice trembling with sweetness. Every beat gets louder when I'm this close. I closed my eyes for a heartbeat. Because you make it feel like it's allowed to. And then, without rush, without hesitation, she closed the last inch between us. Her lips met mine in a kiss that wasn't about passion or urgency, but belonging. Slow, soft, with a kind of honesty I'd never known. Her hand cupped the side of my face, thumb stroking gently as though she feared the moment might vanish if she wasn't careful. I kissed her back, steady, reverent, not claiming her, cherishing her. When we finally pulled apart, she smiled. A real one, unguarded, touched with relief. You're here, she said, like she still needed to convince herself. And I'm not going anywhere, I promised. We lay down together, clothes on, limbs tangled gently, just two hearts finding a peaceful place to rest. She tucked her head beneath my chin, fingers drawing quiet lines along my arm. The room was silent except for our breathing, and the new sound of hope settling into the space between us. Her hand found mine and guided it to her chest, right over her heart. You feel that? She whispered. I do. It hasn't felt calm in a long time. I kissed the top of her head, letting the moment carve itself into memory. Maybe, I said softly, we can keep choosing calm together. She smiled into my chest. And for the first time, in a long, painful, lonely stretch of years, she closed her eyes knowing she wasn't alone. If this story made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more slow-burn romance tales. Share in the comments, would you ever take a chance on a connection that feels too good to be true? And remember, sometimes the smallest gestures, a touch, a look, or a shared moment, can change your life forever.